My Citroen Ami has been recalled again. So, as you might have noticed, we've kind of gone back to basics here with the video, just sitting in Ami recording. And for those of you that have been around a while, you'll know I've been on a bit of a journey trying to buy a house. I'm living and rented at the moment, buying a house that should be ready fairly shortly, and all of the sort of stuff that goes with buying houses. I mean, the more I do this, the more I'm convinced that Tucker's Law firmly applies to house buying, house building, you name it. And if you don't know what Tucker's Law is, you can Google it, because I probably shouldn't repeat it here. But I definitely think that is what's going on. And so it's turning out to be a little bit of a stressful process, a lot of stuff going wrong, a lot of stuff taking up a lot of my time and making me not really want to sit down and make videos. So if you're wondering why it's been a bit slow, there's your reason. I am trying to keep on top of things. I thought it was important to bring you this recall news, but if you wonder where the videos are, hopefully normal service can be resumed fairly shortly. But there's a lot of stuff going on that's getting in the way. So I seem to be collecting these recall notices from Citroen. So for those of you that haven't been following the channel for very long, back in November, around the kind of time, not that long before we started having the issues with the motor, which led to the motor being replaced, I was sent this recall notice here. And what it says is that as part of our quality monitoring program, which is applied to all of our products, we have identified that your Citroen vehicle may be equipped with the wrong instrument cluster, which would face a non-compliance issue due to the non-alignment of the component with United Kingdom regulations and laws. In a worst case scenario, this could lead to the display of incorrect speed and mileage units. Now I'll put a screenshot of this there if you want to have a look at that. Now, when it went in for its replacement motor, this recall work was carried out. And I don't know exactly what they did, because I don't think there was actually anything wrong. So I think it was literally just a case of checking that the instrument cluster was working as expected. And that was that. The recall was done. Everything's good. Now, as far as I know, this original recall applied to my Ami, which was the first one delivered in the UK, and very few others. I haven't actually heard of anybody else receiving this original recall, which says it's with code JKV. I think there was very, very small numbers involved. But now we have another recall notice which came in the other day. And from what I've seen on some of the Facebook groups and from checking a couple of different registration numbers on the government's recall checking thing, this one seems like a bit more of a wide issue. And in fact, as far as I can tell, all of the customer cars that have been delivered so far are subject to this one. And this is, you know, rather familiarly, as part of a quality monitoring program, blah, blah, blah. We have identified that your Citroen vehicle may display an incorrect speed value on the instrument cluster. To address this issue, we will check and, if necessary, replace the instrument cluster. So rather than the original one, which focused on it perhaps showing the wrong units, and what I think might well have been happening there was they were concerned that some of them had left the factory still with a km/h speedo fitted, like the French models or all the other ones sold in the EU have, rather than the miles per hour that they should have in the UK. Now, I didn't have that problem. And now it seems this latest recall, which is code JQH, so let me know if you've received this in the comments, because as far as I can tell, an awful lot of Ami owners are getting this letter. It is to determine whether the right speed is shown on the instrument cluster. Now, from what I've heard, that is a case of basically checking that it reaches 28 miles an hour, as we know it does, and displays the speed correctly. Now, I've got no reason to believe that this Ami doesn't do that. What I might need to do is I've got the draggy performance meter, I might need to go out with that and then just double check. But I think you'd know, certainly if it was too slow, you'd know fairly quickly. And if it was too fast, you probably have a pretty good idea as well. So it might be a bit of a storm in a teacup, but for Citroen to recall all of them, I'm guessing that they think it's a pretty big issue. I've already seen reports of a couple of people on the Facebook groups that have taken their Ami in and they've had the recall done, and very little in the way of indication that they actually did very much, apart from just check over to make sure it works as intended. So I'll need to arrange to get it in, but I thought it was quite important to let you know that it was happening. I mentioned a while ago it was going to be really interesting to see the how many left figures. So how many left look at DVLA records of car registrations, with an idea being for classic cars to work out how many of them are still left on the roads. But a side effect of them doing this is they take on new registration data as well. So you can see how many vehicles have been registered. So we're now up to Q3 of 2022, which was when this Ami was registered, given it was delivered in September. And it looks like there are 87 of them on the roads, which I'm assuming is this one. I don't know of any other customer cars that were delivered in September, apart from this one. And then the rest of them must be the press cars, the dealer demonstrators. So there's still no real indication of how many have actually been sold and delivered yet. The Q4 information is due in May. So hopefully that's when we'll see a big chunk of them arrive and get a feeling for how many Citroen have actually delivered. But even 87 I thought was a little bit more than I was expecting. And one single Ami Cargo, which I think is going to become a rare beast indeed. If you've ordered an Ami Cargo or you've taken delivery of one, let me know in the comments, because I do think they're going to be exceedingly rare. And I thought that was worth mentioning because I talked about how many left in the past and thought those figures now being available for Q3 were quite interesting. And it was going to be really cool to see how many Amis they managed to sell or deliver. Let's be honest, selling them has not been a problem. Delivering them has been a problem. Seeing how many they've managed to deliver in the last quarter of 2022 will be really interesting, I think. I know there's still some of you waiting. And actually this recall is the latest thing holding up some of the deliveries. But I also heard that there were some Amis sitting at dealerships ready to go, but because we passed the 1st of March, they'd been assigned 72 registrations. But you can't register a new car on a 72 reg after the 1st of March. And so these Amis were sitting there, they'd had their previously allocated registration numbers, but they couldn't deliver them to customers because they weren't actually registered and it wouldn't be legal to do so. So they're waiting on new physical registration plates being made up to put on them so they could finally be delivered. Now, that's just what I've heard from an experience of someone at one dealership, and I don't know if this was going on all across the country, but it's just one delay after another. And as I said, this recall was holding things up for a little bit as well, although I gather that that is now moving again, and I'm seeing the odd 23 plate Ami appear. I even seen someone take delivery of an Ami Tonic, which is really cool. I think that's the first one I've seen on UK roads, so I think that's really good. But for those of you that have been waiting, that were supposed to take delivery in like October, November time, it's just awful, and I do hope that you're finally going to get there, if you haven't given up and cancelled your orders yet. But it does just seem to be one delay after another, and I mean, part of me wonders if Citroen UK must regret even starting this whole thing, right, the way it's going. But I do hope those of you that are painstakingly hanging on in there get some good news shortly. But that's all for this video. I just wanted to put it out there about the recall. Let me know in the comments if you've had one of these letters. I suspect any of you that have an Ami in the UK have received one of these letters, unless you've taken delivery of it in the past week or so and it's already had the recall applied. Thank you very much for watching. I will hopefully have some more Ami content for you very shortly, but I'll see you next time.